Hello and good evening, good morning, good day, good night, whatever is your time zone. Welcome to another virtual DDD meetup. It's getting really crowded already in here in Zoom. Great to see. And I think we have some nice viewers there on YouTube as well. So today's a bit different because today we have Krisztina, who will organize, who's one of the organizers and will give the session today. And that's all I'm gonna say. It's up to you, Krisztina.
Thank you, Kenny. I just do what I do every time. I tell you stories, but this time I will share the whole way how I work, how I use DDD, and how can all of you use it and apply it. It is really crowded here. For the begin, I have the very first question to you. Do you know this sentence? I assume most of you have already read it because it's on the abstract in Meetup. I saw it on Kenny's presentation 3 years ago, I don't know, at Kandinsky. And it just hit me totally because I always felt this, but I never saw the sentence formulated. And being a software developer, I am very pragmatic girl, and I see an equation here. It is a mathematical thing. We have here a gap. We have to close it. If we close this gap, we will reach a lot of misunderstandings, and none of us will land in such a blog post like this Citibank mistake. I don't know if you heard about it. This is the proof for developer assumptions about what actually was needed.
It's always good that people ask how do I sell DDD, and I just use this quote, and then
you don't need
usually
to. Everything is on this board. This board is locked, but you can still the links are. I put every link and everything what I mentioned here on the board. For me, this article tells you everything. This is I don't know. We don't need mistakes for 500 million. It's enough. It's only 20,000 or whatever. But such a mistake with such a everybody, it was only a question of time. Something like this happens because we are working how we are working. Somebody telling us create a drop down or put a checkbox there. This is not what we are paid for. We are paid for to solve problems and not putting blue buttons on the website. I would be really happy if we have a real discussion today, and not only I'm not a presenting person. So if you have questions or mentions or observations or improvements, just go away. Just go on. Not go away. Just go on.
Go away. Okay, bye.
Sure.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a quote that I've been keeping for years inside my quote file, but programs must be written for people to read and only incidentally for machines to execute. It just makes it clear to me that software development is more about human thought than it is about the computers.
Absolutely. Even if we are in the century of lambdas and cloud computing and so on and DevOps, it's still not enough. It's not enough to have the nicest and brightest repositories and that kind of stuff if we don't understand the problem. And in my experience, we tend to jump to some solutions even before we take time to understand what is actually the problem. In most cases, we have beautiful solutions which in best case solve the problem. In the usual case, I think we are not so good at it. So we have to learn to understand the business. We have to learn to understand this domain expert thinking and to ask questions and make us understandable so that everybody knows what we are thinking and we know what the domain expert thinks. I would like to take you all to a fictional company, a story, and I hope we can go this way through the whole plan or a journey. What I use if I am faced with a new problem or a new challenge or a new quest. I have a couple of explanations for this board. Everything what you hear today, it's something what I'm doing. So this is not from books or theoretical stuff, but this is how I work. And this for 2 companies now already, and it works great. And the tools and techniques that I mentioned are not exclusively. I'm using a couple of them. There are for sure a lot of similar tools and techniques. It is not important for you or for me to use this one. It is important that you create a toolbox and know what you can need and how you can get it. And for this, there are a couple of collections or tools or books, like the one curated by Kenny and Joao. The link is somewhere here on the board. I don't want to spoil everything. It's a collection of collaboration tools. It's an open source book on EPUB. Everybody can buy it or just download it. Money will be donated. So there is no excuse why we don't know about these tools and techniques, and why we don't use it. There are a lot of visualization tools like Miro and Mural or other ones. Use it, learn it, make some experience, and you will make huge impact in a company. When I say you, I mean, I don't mean you personally, I mean your team, the people you work with in product development or in your job to solve problems. I don't mean you personally. Yeah, for the intro, I think it's enough. I hope you will have challenged me and have questions so that we can go on problems or constraints what you see. So let's start with a story. I always start if I'm called because I have a new problem to solve. The first one is understanding the problem, and not only the problem itself, but including who are we who are working on this problem, and what problem do we want to solve. And this is this terminology I still stolen from Henning Schwentner. It is a cloud level vision. So you are on a very high level. You just want to understand what exactly is happening, and put all this on the board, like the context. We are a company, a gardening business. Plants for you. I heard this exists. I didn't know this. Selling plants to our customer in a normal analog local shop for the last 20 years. And our mission and credo is to be a reliable shop, assuring high quality in everything what we promise. This is who we are. It belongs to the context. Put this always on the board to know what we are, who we are. In our situation, it is 2021 or 2022, Corona big time, and starting with the next Monday, we just found out we will have to close our shop for the customers. We are in a lockdown and have a real crisis. So this happens this Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. What do you know this situation? Is this something you can relate to? Michael is laughing.
Okay. A lot of businesses were there.
So this is, you can imagine where we are. It is a real crisis. It can be a big one like this one. It can be a small one. Because a customer called and said they want the product yesterday, or they wanted some services yesterday. So it's a real crisis situation. What would you do in this usually? What are you doing usually if this happens? In my former experience was starting looking at GitHub or some versioning system and thinking about where to put the code.
Where do you mean as a developer, Krisztina?
No, as everybody. I don't. I know here are some developers, but everybody. What is your opinion? What would you do?
When the shop closes.
Then you get this information. You go to the company Monday morning and you get this information. Next week, we have to close the shop.
Well, I would always look, what can we do, right? What is still allowed?
Exactly.
Yeah, low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, yeah. And these low-hanging fruits are very good, of course. We just have to check if they are really low-hanging or just they are tricking us in something which become a big ball of mud or something, a bigger problem later. In this case, yeah.
I actually read, I went looking for DDD and I ended up finding impact mapping.
Yeah.
Can you say that author's name? I
Again?
can't. Can you say the author's name for impact mapping?
Impact mapping.
Gojko
Edžić.
Say it again.
Gojko Edžić.
Okay, it doesn't fit in my mouth, but yeah, it was interesting. I went looking for DDD and found that book. It made a big impact on me because it says actors or people, and I'm used to the 25-year-old as a role. I want features so that value and blah 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 blah. But in that book, it really opened it up to me. Like, who are the people in the environment that can make this happen? Not just the code writers. Yeah, I put it on Kindle and read it in a day. But
yeah,
like in this case, so it prompted me to think about drivers and people that are maintaining cars and the pharmacist who has masks in this situation, not just the code.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it also said, who are people that we need to win their minds, and who are people that are against us that we have to mitigate around. And so it cast a bigger circle for me about what people means by saying actors. Actors can step in and be benevolent, or they can be malicious, or they could just, So it was huge for me.
Usually we ignore everyone. We are thinking on our jobs and where to put the code and what architecture, or even I never worked like a product manager or a product owner, but I think even they have usually or often ignore the impact. What happens if a company makes some decisions? And I think this book, this impact mapping, it doesn't have anything to do with DDD, but actually works great. It is for me is a starting point for DDD, because it takes all the consideration: who are we impacting, what happens after that, and it gives us a perfect plan to do it. and to visualize it.
Well, to go a bit on more detail, Goico is actually an official trainer under Eric Evans, as far as I know. So it really makes sense that impact mapping, right,
Yeah,
relates a bit to DDD. So
absolutely. But
He's authored a DDD book, which is, so I went looking for the DDD book and found an interview about this. So it was interesting that I went looking for
Yeah.
technology and found project management. Oh, wow, he's got a big brain. He can do more than one thing. It's great.
I think they were on a parallel track for the start, but just now felt everything together, and this is why we are here. This is what I think and feel, that all the stuff what we learned in the last years, or we are learning now, fell on the right place to, and we have to get the best out of it. And this is actually the short description of my story here, or of this session, because we know so much things, and we just have to be open and open-minded and use them, use these techniques, use these tools. My question before wasn't quite right, because we are at the gardening shop. We are not a software developer, but this gardening shop asked a company to help because they don't have any digital experience, any capabilities. They are just a shop, but they know, okay, we have to do something digital because our customers cannot come to the shop anymore, and we can survive a couple of months, but we have these plants, they will die. So it is a real crisis. And they decided to partner with the software team, and this is us. And what can you do? You can do an impact mapping session or an event storming, a big picture event storming. But for situations like this one, a crisis which needs to be solved in a totally new way, you don't have any real idea how to go forward and what can you do, what you are able to do. So impact mapping help to distill the right activities, which fits in the context and the time and the capabilities that you have. And this is the first meeting. Get everybody on site. Get the customers. You really don't need the customers in this case, because the shop is a small shop. They know their customers. They should be there, everyone, the gardeners, the owners, the accountants, whoever, and the software developer, or the software company, consulting company, or the software company who help them to solve this problem. The goal with this meeting is to discuss the real problem, where we are, what we have to keep, and how can we solve our actual problem to sell our plants without an open shop. Create such a board. As I said, you can use impact mapping, or you can use big picture event storming, or in cases like not such a crisis, but an important decision to make, you can use worldly mapping. There are different methodologies. What is important in this at this meeting, not only that everybody is there who is impacted somehow, but to keep in mind that we are in problem space. We don't think about AWS or cloud or which repository, but we really have to take time and be patient and understand the problem. And let's say we have this, let's play a little bit with this impact mapping. We have our problem is to sell our plants before they die without an open shop. we put all our actors on the board. Impact mapping to learn impact mapping is really easy. You have 4 phases or 4 blocks. Put the problem on the board. The actors who are impacted somehow and who can help or stop us to solve our problems. And think about what they do or can do to help or stop us. And I just painted here some things that I thought, okay, this could happen. We want that the customer ask us which plans we can offer, or they could ask us. We need that they keep ordering from us and not from other companies or gardening shops. We need that they pay us, otherwise we don't solve our problem. What about the gardeners? They must keep the plants alive. We have to solve this somehow. They must warn us if some plants must be sold before it's too late. And we can take the other people too, other owners or the other employees. They can help to solve this problem too. They can help us with this problem too, like investing in new ideas or new ways of paying the software company, or for example, getting the plans to the customer. So really easy way. And the next, if you want, we could do this next step together. This is the last step. Activities. What we do to fulfill these needs. How can we ensure these needs? What do you think? I could try to enable this board.
Very basic idea, but
Give
give them a phone number they can call to ask.
Them our phone number. It's a very basic but a very good idea. So why it doesn't have to be complicated.
There.
Yeah, so another one is, if you to go on that simple one, right? Have a Google Doc Excel sheet where you keep the inventory and publish that somewhere so people can quickly see what the inventory is and call us, and well, give them the phone number is already there. Also a very simple, quick way of setting that up in a fast way, right?
Yeah, and you are on the solutions page. Google Docs.
No, or somewhere where you can just show the inventory. So show what inventory we have.
Okay, but we don't have inventory here at all.
That's a good question. I have a question. So give them the phone number, isn't that solution space? So what are we trying to, like, I'm confused on problem solution space at this point now.
Yeah.
Because giving them the phone number is a solution. So I'm just trying to figure out what we're trying to do at this stage.
It's not the solution because we don't, how do we give our phone number on all our customers? Like a flyer, or this would be a solution. How we do this?
Okay. So the problem is, so there's a problem here, which is they don't have our phone number. They might not have our phone number.
They never used to call us.
Right.
They might have or might not, but we had a shop. They were coming there physically, and now.
Right.
So of course, if we can give them a phone number, we can give them a link to a Google Docs, but this is a huge.
Well, so removing the Google Docs, right? It's just show which plans do we have in a sheet without them.
Exactly. So we could ask us, we could share our inventory or list or something.
Right. So they can ask us via phone, or they can view inventory online in some way. So that's how they, Now those seem like, yeah, it's kind of, okay.
Or why online? We could do this on a flyer too,
Right.
right? But okay,
So-
still share our current inventory.
Share our current inventory, okay.
Yeah, what can we do something else? Or maybe from the other needs, like keep ordering from us and not from others.
Yeah, for this one, we could keep them up to date more often.
Keep them up to date. Okay.
One of the things I learned from impact mapping is that those people have different skills or needs.
Yeah.
Last week we could have called them customers, but next week they could be our promoters, and we could ask them to join in to, be Patreons of the shop, not just customers of the shop.
Of course we can, but does this solve our original problem?
Well, I'm thinking as far as
We can give them discounts.
promoting the shop. Yeah.
Keep ordering from us, so discounts.
Yeah, and perhaps, but that goes more into the needs of the customers. If we are in lockdown, are the customers in lockdown? So should we do a home delivery?
Yeah, it is all these questions here. How we get the plans to the customer? Here would be the question: home delivery or not. So
Yeah.
or calling the customers to come and pick up.
How about give them
But that-
free gardening advice?
Good idea.
Well, that's actually,
No,
that's a good
but-
point, because that's one of the customers' needs, is actually the reason they come to the shop. A lot of them is actually gardening advice, not just ordering a plant online, right? So we could put, that's a missing need right there, or like an impact that they're looking for under customers. They want gardening advice, right?
Yeah.
They want to know plants and they want gardening advice, and that's a huge value that we offer, right? So an impact that we give them.
No, but
That's
going in, what I mean with home delivery was keep ordering from us and not from others. Are others doing home delivery or not? Or are they, you come pick it up from us, but if people are in lockdowns themselves, do they feel safe to come get it from us? Or, that
Yeah.
goes more into the needs there of safety. So probably the customers have maybe safety, but I'm not sure. You need to check that, right? Can they travel
Yeah.
or not? Or
It'll have to be some kind of key differentiator,
Yeah.
such that they keep coming back to us, as opposed to, what's the difference between you and some other gardening shop?
Yeah, exactly. And all these questions are appearing if you put this line here. What is the differentiator? Why? What can we do? At the moment, it's a differentiator. We are in the same city and they know us.
Yeah. We could, since they're
Yeah.
used to coming to us, so one of the things is they want to, so we can deliver, like, essentially there's kind of like we can deliver the plants to them, or they can come and get the plants, right? And so is there some sort of what's the word, touchless delivery or touchless pickup option?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of contactless pickup or something. So if we have some sort of contactless pickup option, right, we can deliver to them or have a contactless pickup. So, right, I think that gives us,
Right. I have to take the car from you. So this is cool. Now you get, I think, the idea behind this impact mapping. Throw everything at the board. This is why everybody's here. Everybody who has the skin in the game and is interested and has domain knowledge. It has nothing to do with some wanted solution. It is just to understand what exactly is our problem and what are our options. And impact mapping says there are no stupid options. So you can, if you don't put it on the wall or on the board, it cannot be discussed.
Yeah. It's a little, it's interesting because this is a little bit different than I'm not very experienced with impact mapping as I am with other techniques, right? In doing them in any detail other than, play exercises. But it's a little bit different than I thought. This is kind of, at this age, we're kind of getting into something that I would use opportunity solution tree for, which is basically discovering opportunities. And the impact mapping I thought was really more about problem discovery. But this is kind of getting into this phase. We're actually in solution discovery here, right?
Not yet. Not yet. We are only discussing what we already know about our customer. We know how they behave. We know how often they come.
Right.
We know how often we have new customers and how is our churn rate, or how long they keep to us, and what makes them coming to us and to others. We are a 20-year-old company, so we know them.
I also think that some of these things that we're talking about here, like discounts, home delivery, I'm sure that's probably already a part of their business model to some extent. So that's nothing probably very new. So from that point of view, definitely doesn't seem like solution, but more like elaborating on those problems, and perhaps then venturing into the solution aspect, which is more about, well, the how do we do deliveries?
Yeah.
Or how do we do discounts?
Right. But we have to put it in context, and in this context belongs the fact that we have a name, a reliable shop assuring high quality. We don't want to challenge this. This is our baseline. We have to keep this if we want that they are coming. So all this belongs to the same context. We are not jumping to any solutions yet.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of a fine line, right? And that's what I'm trying to understand what we're trying to accomplish at this phase. Because when we write at this thing like contactless pickup, that's a solution. Picking up, like they want it delivered or they want it picked up. Those are things that we need to, those are deliverables we would provide normally. We give them an option for delivery or give them option for pickup. We either have those or don't. Now we have to shift to contactless pickup now, maybe. That's kind of a solution.
I don't know. It could be a box on front of the door, or a call. It could be in 3 different ways.
Could be a drone delivery.
Yeah.
It's 4 different ways.
Yeah, it's a shift. The problem they need at this stage, I guess we're saying they need contactless pickup is an option. Is that what we're saying? It's not a solution per se. It's just something the customer wants.
You are right. This is already assuming some thing.
Yes, I guess
we don't know that. We don't know this. Maybe we just have to decide home delivery or pickup, and because we know our customer, we know which they would prefer.
Would it be more appropriate to call it safe pickup, or COVID safe pickup, if you will, as opposed to just contactless, which already kind of ventures into the
exactly, because in context it's COVID too. So yeah.
So this is also the problem with customers and problem solution space, right? What we in DDD call problem and solution space. Usually the problem space is the solution space for a customer, usually, right? They're usually talking into solutions like, I wanted to have it home delivered. Home delivered is actually a solution, same as contactless. So there's a big fakeness there because it's not actually a safe pickup. I don't know as well. I know this is really user research, right? As well. And you would probably have someone who's already done user research when you're here. If not, then you just need to go with whatever you think is best at this time because you're time constrained as well.
Yeah.
So
and
I think if we flip back to the problem that you've laid out, which is, if customers want to continue buying from us, they're asking us, is there a safe way for me to pick it up? Right? That's a deliverable. We need to, if we want them to be able to come pick it up, we need to, in this new problem, that the problem is shifted and we now have to provide a safe way to pick it up, not just a way to pick it up. So if we think of it that way, we can say that's their problem. And that's a deliverable. We have to provide them a safe way to pick it up. And so it's kind of like, it's always a little bit shifty, but like, as long as we don't shift into it's contactless pickup, that's how we provide a safe way. What their need is, they need a deliverable from us. If I understand this, they need a safe way to pick it up. and that keeps us in problem space on that fine line. Did I get that right?
I would say yes. And in this meeting, because everybody's there, and the people owning this gardening shop and working there know their customers, I would always go back to the original question: does this discussion help us to solve our most biggest problem? Does it help to discuss about home delivery of safe pickup if we are not sure yet how to sell our plans? So I would put it on the board and postpone it.
Yeah, and just going into a bit of impact mapping, right? The third section with ask us which plant we can offer, those are impacts.
Yeah.
Your deliverables, which is the next, can also be several solutions, right? So one
could
be
we are
contactless, and these can be experiments as well.
Yeah.
So they can also be sort of like a solution. We can try A, we can try B, we can try C.
Exactly.
This is fine. That's the discussion, the boundaries of the discussion, I guess, of impact mapping.
We just you can call it brainstorming or something, but in an organized, structured way. So to have all the time the problem in front of us, and then get all the ideas what we can gather and collect in this crisis and put it on the board, because what we have to decide today in this first meeting, how we go on, how we act very fast, so that our plans don't die and we don't go out of business. Because we could keep on going for 6 months, but the plan's not. So the delivery problem it's not the most urgent one. And I would, as I said, I would put it on the board, but not discuss it now. And I put here below some I think important idea. This should be, just like you did, enabling. This discussion should be enabling and not constraining. Do not throw away ideas because they wouldn't fit or somebody think it doesn't fit. Put everything on the board and discuss if it helps, or you find a way to help to solve the problem, our initial problem. The second question, which everybody could ask at the end, like we do now, do we discover our questions? It doesn't matter now. If we discovered a few ways, we had a domain, a meeting to understand the domain, a meeting to understand the problem and how the customers are thinking, how they act. We just learned a lot about the domain. We don't need to discover all questions. We don't need to go for completeness, because we will come back, and these problems will come back again. Just be patient. So if the answer is it doesn't matter if we discovered all questions because we know how to go on and how to go to the next level, then it's great. If we think we still don't have no idea what to do, we don't have on this board anything that could help, then is the meeting not over? And you have to leave this meeting with the feeling, okay, we know now which lane to attack, which way to go, and how we have a chance to solve this crisis, or how we see a good chance to solve this crisis. Then it was a good meeting, and the meeting is finished.
So I have a question here. It's slightly related, but it's maybe a little bit more sort of orthogonal. So this kind of, at least this particular view in front of us right now kind of assumes that our stakeholders, our users, let's say, they have a problem and they are going to present us that problem. And it's our job to then find out how we best solve that problem. But oftentimes it can also happen that the customer will often come up with a solution on their own, and they say, hey, I want to have, a website where I can deliver this stuff, and I want to be able to have this running 24/7, never goes down, super fast. So how do you sort of pull them away from that mindset and say, well, okay, let's not jump to those solutions first. Let's first try and understand your problem. Because if they're already kind of set in their minds that that's what they want to do,
Yeah.
does all of this then matter? Does that still help?
Exactly, this is the way how this whole journey started. A customer came to the company I worked on, to my team. They want to offer in their e-commerce travel platform insurances, and we have to build here a checkbox. No, three checkboxes or radios
Exactly,
or something, and that's it. And we should do this very lean, only the 3 radios, and that's it. And the word insurance didn't appear before that day. So for me, it was a huge warning sign. Hey, we are talking about something totally different. You don't want 3 radio buttons. And we asked him to get to our refinement together, to find out exactly what he needs. And we had exactly this discussion. And in the end, we went with his lean solution, but not 3 radio buttons, but we had a huge discussion about where this idea will go and how it should work. And our first solution was one kind of prototype in the product, incorporated, but without any huge details, but already built in decoupled way, so that we knew we will find out later more. And the life cycle, we didn't know anything about the life cycle, but he was a huge addict after that. He said he was really sad as they left the company, and he was our client. He didn't work for him, but he really liked it and understood it, because we didn't waste his time and his money. We could have built it, radios, and then rebuilt it 5 times after that with much longer times. But we paced together. So he was open to have this discussion, because we asked that he tells us more about the business or about this insurance.
Yeah.
And after that, he understood it.
But he still wanted his 3 radio buttons, I guess.
No, actually not. Actually, he said we are solving it how we want, and we discussed with him our solutions later. So it wasn't a one-way thing. He didn't want the 3 radio buttons. He thought he makes our job easier. This is why he said he wants 3 radio buttons. But it wasn't his intention. He understood this. And this is exactly how this plan started, this 5-step journey. It was exactly his example, because it worked out very, very good, and he was very happy at the end. So just ask questions and ask more and more questions, and no one, if somebody doesn't want, or just paid to command something or order radio buttons from you, you won't change him. But most people understood that this is their interest, that you deliver something usable and evolvable and maintainable, and not only 3 radio buttons.
Yeah,
Be polite and ask questions, and be patient.
Yeah, got to work on that.
Yeah.
But it works. So this was, in my experience, it has worked. So just if somebody tells you, okay, I need this and that, then you start with your questions and note your questions on the board together with him or her. Make it transparent, so that they can complete and extend and all the descriptions, and you will see that they will be interested, that you understand what they need.
Yeah, one of the heuristics that I kind of use, at least in my work anyway, is the real answer lies 5 whys beneath.
Yeah.
So you have to keep on asking, why is this? Why is that? Okay, why do you want these 3 radio buttons? What exactly are you trying to do?
Exactly, this is it. Now, the difference for that time, as this 5 whys appeared, now you have these boards, you have this visualization capabilities and modeling capabilities. It doesn't
True.
have to be called modeling. It is enough that you say, okay, I make some notes.
True. Yeah.
So I think the the lesson that we all have to, we've kind of, it's so we quickly forget it because we've kind of been beaten up with solutions force in the past, but everybody, even people that quote should know better, their first description when they want you to solve a problem for you is to describe it with a straw man solution that they can imagine. When quite frankly, it's because if they can't imagine it being solved, they're not going to come and ask you to solve it, right? Unless they're desperate. But usually they think, I think there's a way to solve this. And so it's really hard to step back and articulate the problem. It's usually more crisp. It's like, if I tell you this potential solution, you may get the problem faster. Yeah, oh yeah, totally, I get the problem.
Yeah.
And so there's an assumption there in everyone's head. And so that's kind of like, even we do it with, hey, we need to, if we just walk up to them and say, we need to do an impact mapping, imagine what that person's going to do, right?
Yeah.
But if you say like, okay, you say, okay, that sounds like we need to understand the context of this solution so we can, then you're going to get back to the impact mapping. So whatever that works for you in the person discussion is, let's make sure we need to understand the context that this solution is going into. Otherwise, we'll make a solution that doesn't fit. Like we'll do exactly what you asked, but it won't fit in your context. So we need to map it to that. So let's have that discussion and make sure we do it in a way that fits. And then these things come out and you're going to work back up to the context. Exactly. That's kind of my recommendation. I always instantly get impatient when they tell me a solution. Yeah. And then I remember that, yeah, that's what I would be doing if I was in their shoes. So let's have the fair conversation.
Yeah, so you're saying you can use the sort of initial solutionizing aspect of it as a bit of a guideline, bit of a crutch to a certain extent, or training wheels, if you will, but then don't get carried away with the initial idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull them back.
Yeah, this is why I put this post-it here. This is only a reminder. Yeah, this problem space. This is a reminder because all of us are jumping to solutions much too early. We are not talking about no technical words. So it was easy for me to catch Kenny because he used the word Google Drive. This is a technical word. No technical words. This is a planting, gardening business. They don't have something like this in their business. Okay. And in the last
I kind of disagree that Excel and Google Drive are technical words. So.
Please ask your gardener if you have one. You're
opening a whole new can of worms, Kenny.
Oh. Yeah, I know. No, but that's it, right? It depends on the context. So one organization would use it a lot and would just use it. That's why I deliberately use it, right? There's a fine line between them. But I do agree with the statement, right? Why go do it there? Because we've always done it like that.
Yeah.
Well, also I'm not sure this is not going to be very surprising to a lot of people, because a lot of people's mental model of what a software could do or should do comes from Excel spreadsheets. So they will have something that they've already kind of cooked up and say, hey, can you make it look like this? And that kind of, throws a spanner in the works.
And then you find out 3 weeks later that from your Excel, they are doing another Excel because actually they need a totally different thing.
Yep.
Well, my Excel was used as input in another system. So they asked me to change the field in the export of the... I've been in that situation.
Yeah. So, and a final resort, you just send this link from Citigroup and ask, do you want this one, or we talk about the problem? Okay, we are late. So I just invented some results from this impact mapping. And what I always do at these meetings, the boards should have context, motivation, place to discussion, and a place for decisions and open questions, and a legend to explain for later, because we don't know later what means what. This is really important. Everybody tends to forget this part, but we have to know, we have to agree what we decided and what we not decided, or what we decided to postpone. these agreements also tend to be forgotten. So put it on the board, and at the end of the meeting, review it with everybody together. Are we one step further? Do we know what we will do? What is our next step? Are there open questions? Does somebody disagree? How can we continue to solve this problem? And in this case, I decided for this company. After a long discussion, we find out, okay, we could offer searching and choosing digitally, not Google Drive, but doesn't matter. The decision was we solve the searching and choosing problem digitally and ordering digitally, but we don't create any inventory site or something. We manage them. We fill the inventory or the offers manually, maintain them manually somehow. Payment, we could just get the money when we deliver. So we decided to deliver for the company, or it doesn't matter if deliver or pick up. We get the money when the plant is delivered. So this problem is solved for now, or is postponed. We have an idea how to solve it, and because we cannot do everything overnight, we go with the minimal solution: searching and ordering digital. And we have a couple of open questions, like how can we collect the money? It doesn't matter for today. For this meeting, we will collect somehow the money. We can get cash, or we can borrow a card reader, or we will find a solution. For today, we are sure we will find a solution. So what today is not so important. How can we deliver plans in time? How can we deliver plans safely? All these things, questions are where we developer tend to diving in details and thinking about details. Just keep it on the high level, keep it on the problem level. Don't forget why are you here. How we can deliver plans safely doesn't help in the question, solving the question how to sell our plans. We will find a way. We will research and we'll discuss it later. It is not the most urgent question because we don't have to deliver anything yet. And the money problem is the same. Questions for the first step, besides the questions that we had. As I send the links to impact mapping, the book, you saw the book, it is a one-day reading activity. It's full of pictures. But everything what is written in it is very, very good, very real eye-opener ideas and insights. Event summing, there is a great book from Alberto to event summing. Cecilia can tell us how cool it is, and a lot of videos and everything to this topic, and it is very easy to learn. You don't need too much for it. Just like impact mapping. Body mapping, it's not so easy. It has to be exercised, but it is a huge help. It's something unique, in my opinion, when it comes to strategy and evolution of a company or a department.
Well, it can also work for architecture, right? Body mapping. If you look at Jade Bloom's work, so
yeah, everything. What
I would only
evolving.
think at this fuzzy thing board members do, but you can actually, as an engineer, start using this as well. It's really
we
nice.
did this.
Yeah,
you know,
we did last
developer department team to see what is our next biggest thing what we have to attack.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a slight idea. We had a good idea what is our problem, and we had our first decisions what we attack as the first point, and this is searching, searching and choosing, and ordering digitally. What we do now, next day or 2 days later, is a big picture discovery. How exactly happens this searching and ordering now? What are our customers doing? So we are going deeper to, we made our problem a little bit smaller. We are focusing only on searching, choosing and ordering, but we still don't know how this is happening now. We are software developers or a software company. We have no idea how people are buying plans. So we need some explanation. We need a lot of details. And for this, big picture discovery with event storming is a great idea, or domain storytelling from this is here. I saw Stefan here. This is a great technique, very successful. I used it very successful in my last PO because he liked it more as an event storming. It helps us very well to explain how this behavior, how these capabilities, how the domain actually is. What happens if somebody is entering the shop? What is the next step? What is she or he doing? So for this, I always imagine a couple of persons. It is not really personas because I don't know them, but in this case, this gardening company, they could tell us exactly how these persons are. And in my experience, it's giving them name and using this name for the rest of the journey. It is very important because then everybody's knowing we are talking about person behavior and not some software solutions. So, and our person is Susan. She she's not a new customer. She's looking for tomatoes, knows exactly what she wants. And she's coming to us not because of the price, but because of quality and delivery. And now you can see why it is important to know who are we, what is important for us. If we know that most of our customers doesn't need the lowest price, we have totally different ideas or solutions as other way around. We know we can raise maybe our prices a little bit, but making this contactless or safe home delivery or whatever. So we have different options, and how we are as company and our how we are seen by our customers belongs to the context. And in this case, again, with most of our colleagues and business experts, we can make just story mapping, not story mapping, event storming, or domain storytelling, and just put a whole story on the board. Like she enters the customer, went to the vegetable section, browsed to the tomatoes, she's chosen 3 different plants, gave her delivery address. And the question is, okay, this is not how it's happening now, isn't it? But we want to go forward. We decided that we will deliver somehow manually or with our cars, so not digitally. So we can imagine here, okay, now we are to our context as a shop. We have the new context, and this is digital world, online, e-commerce selling. We cannot ignore the fact that we are selling on the internet. So we have to conform the laws and abide the laws. And that we don't need to make our dumbest as we are. So you can imagine, okay, she would give us her delivery address, could choose our delivery time and confirm that she agrees to pay by delivery, to agree to terms and conditions, and she receives a confirmation somehow. This part here, it's not how it was until today. But it would be if we would have home delivery. She could come to the to the shop and buy her tomatoes and give us the address. She would do exactly the same thing. She would tell us, okay, when is she at home, when she can get the plants. With this discussion, she would agree our terms and conditions because we would say, okay, we can deliver and you pay the delivery fee or something. And if she's at home, or she could ask us to confirm that when we will deliver the plants. So you can imagine the same story in an analog normal shop too. It is not something invented only for online e-commerce behaviors. And then in this step, we are still in problem space. We still don't think about radio buttons or drop downs or one site or two sites or which repository or whatever. We are still talking about the business. How is the business happening in real life? These questions, again, we have open questions. We could have decisions too, or our decisions are in this event stream, event storm. We can see the decisions, or we can flag them with stickies, like postponed discussions. Which details do we need in this confirmation delivery? It is not important now. It will be important later. So let's put a red sticky for it. How we collect the money? We postponed. We had this as open question before. We can have it here further as open question. It is still not the most urgent question to solve. So we put it on the red sticky on the board that we don't, so that we cannot forget it. Other questions like, can we handle refunds? What about refunds? Now we are in online business. There are different laws. How can we solve this? It is not important for now. It will be. It's the same idea as before. It is just that we are now on kite level. This is also I stole them from Stefan von Henning. We are not on cloud level anymore. We are a little bit deeper. We are looking at one part of the problem. And this is the part that we want to solve next. Questions? Or disagreements? I forgot a really important part. We are still in DDD, virtual DDD here. And this is really essential. The wordings, the ubiquitous language. We discussed, we had on our first no-tech meeting, where it's like searching, choosing, ordering. These names, these behaviors, capabilities should or must appear here on this board. And if they are different, which happens sometimes, then this is a red flag, and you should take time and discuss with the persons, okay, why why do you call it this way? How you call it? If she's not searching but browsing, or I don't know, then let's call it that way. That it means there is still a gap in my understanding compared with your knowledge about the business. So these are red flags which are good. They are good red flags. You must pay attention and ask further questions. Why? Why it is called somehow else? So it's either it was a mistake, or our names, our ubiquitous language is not good enough yet. So we have to ask further questions and clarify and put everything on the board. Okay. If no further questions coming, then it's time to think about what we are doing all the time. We are following actually this John Boyd's OODA loop, something what I learned from Ruth Malan and her masterclass, which is linked here behind this picture. We are observing, then we will orient ourselves in order to take decisions and to act. And this is what we are doing all the time. And this is why we don't need to solve all the problems. We don't need a big upfront design. We don't need to ask all the questions, because we can do this in loops. We collect observations. We observe if our language is correct. We observe if we understand this business exactly. And then we collect all this in order to be able to have some orientation. And for this, I am using this. This is one of my most favorite tools. It is the bounded context canvas. This template is from Miro, and this is Nick Jones' template. He uploaded. He created it. Actually, it was created in our community. But this is one of my favorite parts, because I can note here everything what I learned. Every description, every definition, the ubiquitous language, all the questions. This is not on the board. I put always in the near. All the questions what I have. Do we have an inventory? Or we have a search, or we have a stock? What about this other question? So everything comes here, because now we are software developers, software engineers. We are in solution space, and we are thinking about how to model these necessities and these needs in our software. I still didn't write any code, but I already am able to collect the ideas and collect the observations. And in my experience, this was really helpful, because I saw inconsistencies. I saw event streams or communication, mixed communication. It could show if a big pile of mud is in raising, because I am communicate in all directions instead of one flow. So I use this bounded context canvas just to verify, to note what I understood, what I think, how it could look like, what the business decisions are on business rules, and to verify if my idea about a possible solution could work out. In the same board, I also use things for the future. Feels wrong, or proposals for change it later. So I use this all the time as a challenging and feedback tool to show me if something is wrong. or to show me, can I actually describe what part, what is the job of this bounded context? I know we jumped from event storming to bounded context, but if you have this event storming, I forgot. Of course, you should also think about, okay, do we have bounded context? Do we have more than one? Can we put the boundaries on the board? You can surely think about some boundaries. You don't need to implement anything yet. So you can try, and this is what I did to prepare this session. You can try to fill a bounded context canvas, and then this will tell you if your boundaries are correct or not. These were my real questions, because I started with the search, and then I was stopped by the question, okay, what about the inventory? Where belongs this? I don't know, because there are no one who can tell me, but these questions should be noted and then discussed with the business people, with other developers, with other engineers. But actually, it shows me that I still have missing information about the business, and this is why this bounded context canvas is so good. It's so I love to use it, because it shows me if I understand the business or not, if I understand the life cycle, if I understand the behavior, or I'm missing something, or I'm confusing something. As I said, this template is on Miro. It is not so easy to find. This is why the links here. And the description about this and the whole where it was born is on our DDD crew repositories. There is a repository bounded context canvas. This is how it was created. And you can get all the explanations what block is meaning what. And I think we even have some examples. Questions?
Yeah, so it says here, are query and event the same color?
Events are, no, events are.
No, it's green and yellow.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah, query are green and events are yellow. This is your question.
Okay.
Okay, if this is the only question, it's okay.
No, so I have a comment. What I see
Yeah,
a lot, and it's one of my heuristics. If I call a bounded context search or allocations or reservations, that usually is a sign I don't know the domain enough yet. If you keep it at that higher level, which is fine to start with, right? And this is always the problem when in these sessions and seeing talks, right? They're rather linear. And design is not linear. So when I see that search, I might say it's fine now. Like you say, it's search or stuck. And even stuck, I'm not sure. I would rather specify it, right? What's actually solving to my customer or using. So it's interesting. You said search while the user said browsing, which probably. Right, so this just a comment to I know you. This is the example, Krisztina, which is fine. But this is what I usually go into a lot, right? Being nitpicky, because at the start you will name it like this, but if you go deeper, like Matthias and Rebecca showed you last time in one of the sessions, right? If you go deeper, you might refine that name. Don't stick with search.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you have to. Here, search and browsing is very good. I was interchanging the names all the time. So this morning it was called, this sticky was browsing. And I changed it this afternoon because.
And then you know you're a developer because you call it browsing, which is
exactly.
more of a developer name.
This is why I changed it back, because if I go to a gardening shop, I don't browse. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not English speaker. So
Yeah.
this is the
Actually,
whole
so
context.
the
Yeah.
word browse actually came from, just so you know, like when you went to a shop and then people would walk up to you and say, "Do you need any help?" "No, thanks, I'm just browsing." That's actually the word the browse came from, is the I'm just browsing, looking around. So so it's interesting that the bounded context name is like search. So is it like, if you look at the, I guess there's events and thing, is this bounded context the inventory context or not quite?
This is the question.
You know, because if I just look at the events that you have now listed after you dig into it, so these are the events and these are the views, right? Is that just all events and views on inventory, right?
Exactly, and this is why putting all this on the everything here is imaginary. So you just try to put your events from the event store, event storming on the board, and the results for it, the queries, and so on. Everything what you learned. You can see this slide arrows. These are I take the information from the second step and I put it on the third step. I didn't do anything else. And then I start asking myself, exactly this was happening, what you are doing. Is this search or stock or inventory? What exactly is this? Am I right with this context? Or maybe I am totally wrong and I have to cut it somehow else. Or I can postpone it.
And you see here, right, choice to select, and this is not, I like the bounded context canvas as a negotiation, right? Because I see Krisztina, which is a first browse, which, right, pump in everything that you can, and then see what you can remove, right? Should it be here? I had in the past, it was packaging, also a generic context, where they said, well, I need the shipping address. Okay, for packaging, do you or do you not, right? I like to challenge what's normal, because normal people say, yeah, you need to put that on the package. Well, yeah, you need to put it on a package, but do we need it at this stage, right? So that's, for me, is really nice about this bounded context canvas.
Yeah, and what I like is, if you look at the commands, those really pop out, probably answer even better. This bounded context is probably shopping, right? I'm choosing and buying, right? Yeah. Those are the things I end up doing. So all of this is to help me make those decisions about what to choose and when to buy. And so then this is the actual shopping context. I'm shopping for plants, right? And so then you got, like, there's inventory management, which would be about new plants added or removed, and there'd be other things, but and that pops out. So obviously searching or browsing is something I do while I'm shopping, but that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to search and browse. I'm here to shop for a plant, right? And so, and I think that's kind of, it's good to, this exploration really makes that discussion so simple to have, right? And I think the point you're trying to get is, if you do this, and you got this confusion around bounded context, if you use this and put all the things there, what's there and what's not there, makes your answer very clear on events, views, and especially commands. Like, that really pops out what the context would be.
Exactly. You really use all the knowledge from before and put it on the board. And then even if you say, okay, I see everything in one bounded context, I would still challenge it and refine it a couple of times. Is this really something which belongs there? Can I do it somehow else? Do I have, because we have a time constraint too, do I have to solve this now? Can I postpone it? This is what I also learned from Ruth. Can I postpone it, or do I have to have the full solution now? And if I can postpone the decision, okay, I'll throw it away from here and focus on the most important part. And yeah, this is the challenging. This canvas gives you the chance to visualize and decide if you are right or not. So to somehow give you a bigger security before you start coding.
Right.
Not security, safety. Yeah.
Did you, maybe I'm jumping ahead and maybe you got that. So did you have, like, when you discover, let's say you dig in and you've looked at this, you get the search and you kind of, you're bounded context. Now you've got, say, like you've got different contexts like shopping, you've got delivery, and you've got like I guess whatever they call the inventory management.
Inventory, yeah.
You know, which is they would have a more gardening centered word for that, but it's really about plant management or whatever, right? So inventory management. So I have these contexts, right? Now, on what big picture, what diagram do you kind of put that together on? Like, let's go back and put that here. Let's go forward and put that there. Where would that fit?
Here, in my event storming.
So you would go back and update your event storming and add the different.
Here, I would negotiate the boundaries.
Right. Okay, so you've got that. It says search now. You would go update it. If we decided that was we call it shopping, you would just go change that to shopping.
Yeah.
And now we're shopping. Where is choosing part of shopping or not? You can have that discussion, and then there's ordering, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from this, I generally also make a context map.
Exactly. Here.
And
if I have the link too. If you have more than one team and more than one context, it belongs to the discussion. But starting with the event storming, then you have three bundled context canvas, one near the other, and then you can discuss this events and everything. So you also discussed it on event storming, and you can discuss the context mapping. This is how the relationships are between this bonded context and between the people, how they are communicating. I wouldn't describe now context mapping. This is one important and powerful technique or method, and it helps, but I didn't include it here. So you have the link here, but yes, it belongs to the story. Just in our case, we are a small company with a small consultancy, so we won't need this discussion yet. But of course, later, if we have to deliver faster and faster, we have to discuss this too. And now we had all these discussions, and we find out where we were wrong and what we corrected all our ideas. We already have a clear plan what belongs where and what communicates with whom. We can create a plan. And for this, I used user story mapping. And now my user story mapping is also from Miro. The first action was I corrected. I have thrown away all the release notes because it doesn't help. It doesn't help me to know in which week we release what. Doesn't matter. It is not our problem to know in which week we are releasing what. Our problem is to know how can we deliver value. What we have to do to deliver value continuously every time, so often or so fast how we can. And as I wrote here, we are developers and product people. We need some structure and a plan. So it is time for create a plan. We still don't find out everything. We still have a lot of open questions, but we can create and put this plan just very, very roughly, put this plan on a board and start to see how can we deliver value. This is our only concern. We don't doesn't care. We are not delivering something for a contract. We are delivering value for the shop and they want to have it as fast as possible. That's it. So we can create our plans for our team, and we can create, and there are other teams where there are more than one teams, and if we have 300 contacts, we probably have more than one teams. Everybody can put his plan or her plan and their plan on this board, so we can discuss in front of this plan how we are dependent from each other, how we coordinate, where we are blocked by something. And this is again what Miro brings, a lot of icons and signs and everything. You can make everything visible and understandable and transparent. So this is the place to discuss plans, how we go, how we deliver value and get feedback for our ideas. And this is where very often goes totally wrong. This is why I put it in the danger zone. This is the only red part, flag on the forward board. We are not describing stories for us. We are not saying, I would like to have 3 drop-downs with 2 checkboxes in the near. This is really critical. We have to use the same learnings, the same words, the same story from Susan, what we learned until now. And this is essential. And here it is really important that everybody stays firm and not accepts stories like what I mentioned before, because then we did this for nothing. If we lose in our software and in our wording and talk and discussions, the value, the domain-driven value, then we can stop doing it. We are delivering things for the customers and not for some colleagues. We have to have the customers in front of us. And we have to be earnest and transparent and say if something is missing or something takes longer or not, or if things are blocking, because only then we are acting as a real team and doing everything for the same goal. Questions? You don't have any questions? It's okay. We are almost done. And our last part is coding, almost coding. This is the last diagram, but I also I get it from the DDD crew repo, the domain message flow modeling. I learned it from Nick Tunes, like a lot of stuff here on this part. I really like it to use it for everything. I use it to describe communication or really implementation of communication between bounded contexts, but I'm using it the same way in one bounded context to describe what we are implementing, what our interfaces are. What happens? What are our boundaries? What is the flow? Which is the flow? What happens when? And I'm using this diagram. I'm using the whole time until the whole bounded context is implemented or all the changes are implemented. This is my documentation forever. This stays. It was the same with this insurance thing. We started with one small behavior and communication. And we added all the new behavior on the same board so that we could see if we are breaking something or we are changing something totally, or how far are we with everything what we wanted to implement. And the same, use the same wording, the same stories, the same behavior, yeah, the same ubiquitous language as always. Note your decisions. If they could be implementation details or not, and put everything on the board what you could forget, or what is important to not to see where you are and what is happening and what is missing or what is done. Put the notation there, and that's it. And that's it. And now we should have the same wordings and the same behavior what we had on the very first discussion about our customer, our Susan. And we could be probably sure that we will solve her problem and not ours. We are really late. I really like the discussion, but I don't want to keep you too long. So takeaways. I try to summarize everything what I consider important. But I think you need just to start working like this or thinking or following this kind of plan. And the first one, which is a huge problem if it doesn't happen, is using Miro and Mural. It is not hard. You just have to start using it. I didn't had any workshop or something. I just use it all the time, so I get experience with it. This is in the category your tools. Turn the focus from the details. Details are not so important. If you have everything on one board, you can always go back and complete the picture. It is the details turns us to output and not to discuss about things which are maybe not so important. Important is the output what we want to achieve. And this is why always the question and the most important problem has to be on the board, so that you can always look back and say, oh, but you're not talking about this. Let's go back to our original question. Listen to the domain language and qualify confusions. This is very easy to do. Still, people don't pay enough attention. This is where we close the gap. We always have to ask, why did you use that word, and what means for you, and why? Explain to me, please, so that I can understand. Challenge the requirements. Always, I always challenge the requirement because they have to be the requirements from Susan and not from some company person. Every requirement should be challenged with the question, how will this requirement help Susan? And that's it. It is, if you start challenging it, then it will be easier in time. Do not jump to the solutions. Stay in problem space before you think that all of you, both or all parts, are ready to think about solutions. Visualize everything, the decisions and the open questions, and make the implicit explicit. Do not assume things. Do not take shortcuts when it comes to sticking to the domain. Like what happens very often, your team has more time, can you implement this instead of the other team? This is dead. This is the start of the big pile of mud, probably with multiple teams. Everybody can take shortcuts, but not in this regard. And be patient. Everybody has to accept we don't know everything from the start. And even if we are working, I worked for a company for 9 years, I still discovered new things in the last year. We cannot know everything, and not even our business people know everything. Actually, not even the customer know everything. So we have to be patient, and we have to accept that we need more loops and more feedback to confirm or to correct our road and our plan. Important is to stay to stick aligned with the domain. This is the most important part. But because then, even if we were wrong, because the domain was wrong, we will correct our path together, and we will close. We won't have this gap anymore. So we will evolve our software together with the domain, and this is what domain-driven design actually gives us. They are not aggregates and not repositories. They are this orientation of our software by the domain. These options, what we will have later, even if we don't know them yet.
So we have some questions
Very
from
good.
YouTube. The first one, if there are more than 2 bounded contexts related, what's the best way to organize bounded contexts during plan creation?
Yeah,
I need to think about that myself as well.
Yeah, plan
the exact
creation is
question.
user story mapping. I said, let's create a plan.
Yeah, for
I
me,
Yeah.
the thing about user story mapping, because I've did this myself, there's a quirk in the perception of a user story map compared to a bounded context, because it's a time storyline frame, and bounded contexts are not exactly usually aligned one-on-one with the storyline. So there can be a quirk in doing this versus the bounded context, right?
This is what I wanted to explain. Just use the table. It is not playing by the book, but using things what we have and we can use. So release has disturbing me, was terrible. It is not helpful on the spot. It doesn't help me at all. I won't work slower or faster because there is somebody saying this is the plan. So my focus is not in what release is what, but what activities or what capabilities are delivering value. And I could create a customer enters the shop and she can select visible offers, but it doesn't bring any value if I don't have, I don't know, navigation or something. Or, you know, important is to have a slice of value every time. And if it is called release or not, it is in first week, it should be in every week or every second week a value. And this should be the focus and not these names I should also remove. So it's important is to organize your output to bring some outcome, to confirm your way, to confirm. Maybe we had a huge mistake. Maybe we made a huge, and nobody would want to buy online. They want to be called and ask us what we have to solve. And this is what we want to find out. We want, yeah, we had 3 meetings, but those meetings are not wasted. This knowledge we will still need, but we still don't know if our idea is will work out. So we have to choose the right stories to deliver value, and without any other organization things, and organize together with the other team, of course. If we are more than one teams working on this, or more than one bounded context, doesn't matter. The question is, do I deliver value or not?
I have another question about sort of on the more pragmatic front of this whole effort. So the scenario that you described here with regards to this gardening shop, it clearly kind of represents a fairly greenfield-ish effort, right? You're kind of starting from scratch, identifying exploring the problem space, and sort of we can take that time and kind of come to a good enough model of the solution context as well as the problem context. But in those areas, in those, let's say, domains where things have kind of already been along a while, call it a brownfield, if you will, there tends to be a tendency of just kind of going with the inertia, sort of, going with the flow. And it could be potentially a little bit tricky to kind of take a step back and draw this whole thing out, perhaps over several weeks, and people might get a little bit itchy about, well, okay, can we just do something and then evaluate whether or not it's the right product to build? Those kinds of things. So would you recommend, I guess my question is, would you recommend doing this specifically in those kinds of greenfield environments, or could it be applied for pretty much any effort? Maybe it's just a matter of how you do it or how much detail you capture.
I would always try to do this bounded context canvas to see if I see if what I see, to know can I describe it? Can I describe the parts of my software?
Mm-hmm.
But because this is a description of a boundaries, or do I have a monolith? And even monoliths can be wonderful decoupled parts of a software or bounded context. So I would try to do this. Actually, I would try to do everything, because even if I am in a brown field, I still have a need for a new behavior or not.
Yeah.
So if I have a new behavior, then it doesn't matter if it's brown field or green field, because a new behavior it means your context is not only the shop, so the business problem, but also your current software. It belongs to the given context. So if you are working with AWS, then you won't have a solution. Okay, for this solution we are going to Microsoft. It has to be explained why. So your current solution, your current software belongs to the context. This is where we are. This is our baseline.
Yeah, because it's to me the point number 7, I think that was on your last slide, where you talked about let's not try to take shortcuts and, hey, I need some development capacity, can you build this for me? This is if anybody has any doubt, I can say with reasonable certainty that this has recently happened just in my team a few weeks ago, and I was involved in that, trying to sort of detangle all that mess. So it is likely, but in those kind of cases, it's less about what solution we opt for, but more like navigating the dynamics and the politics of domain and what we want to achieve as an organization. So people product owners might see, oh, well, I see this as adding value to the organization, so why don't we just do it? Well, yes, but then we have a problem that we are potentially taking ownership of a context that we don't understand much, because you're looking at purely from a technical standpoint, and that's I mean, I can imagine there's going to be potentially a significant lashback for, well, impact mapping and all that. It's great, but I have a problem to solve.
This is also the problem, because what I don't get everybody, not only developers but business people too, are thinking to software efforts in context of now. They never think about what about in 2 months or in 2 years.
Yeah.
And this makes me crazy. If somebody says, but it's working, it's working. Yeah, it's working until I have to add a new function. Then it doesn't working anymore because I don't understand it. Or because maybe I break something and I have no idea. So it's not working. It's, for me, not working. And taking these decisions, you surely can describe or make a kind of a map to explain what happens if you take this shortcut now. What is the price? The price is, okay, your team will own it, but you have no idea. So either you will have to give it up to another team where the other team will be frustrated, or you have to learn this business. Otherwise, You are at the Citibank with the. You can make big mistakes, and nobody wants this.
Yeah.
So the argument, your team has time. This is not helping, because it's focusing only on the now and not what happens in 2 months.
Yeah, and obviously you're also overlooking the bigger problem that the reason that we have all sorts of sort of contamination of boundaries and context is because we did the same kind of mindset. We kept applying it over the years, and now we have this huge problem on our hands.
Yeah, and this is why all the software is broken, because we take shortcuts without thinking about the consequences. And I don't ask to make a research or a study for weeks of the consequences, but at least understand the problem, understand our decisions. I keep coming back to this OODA loop, and understand what we are agreeing here. And the developers are not so guilty as the others, but they are guilty too, because they should push back more.
So
and
one of the things.
Find another. My solution would be, okay, let me help this other team, which don't have time now, so that they can take over.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm now kind of doing is, because I work as, well, title is principal engineer, but it's more like an architect, if you will. So I'm kind of now working with my teams to say, okay, well, let's say what we are cool to accept and what we will not accept because this is not our boundary. And then as and when things come up, let's try to use those opportunities to define those boundaries clearly, because obviously we can't take a whole year just to define those boundaries and draw out these different maps. But at least we can get some reactive way of approaching to break that problem down, perhaps. So I guess my final question for this would be, would you recommend doing event storming first, or go straight to this impact mapping and then, or a mix of both at the same time?
Impact mapping you need if you are experimenting with something. But because you already have your current situation, or you have your software and your business, you are not experimenting with anything. You just want to understand. So I would go for an event storming, because you can describe what's the situation is now.
Okay.
Impact mapping is something to find totally new ways.
Gotcha.
To think around the corner, to experiment. And you could start with an event storming, put everything on collaborations and the communications and the whole behavior on a huge board. Maybe not every edge case, but the most important ones. And then you could also think about the body mapping to think about, okay, where are we now and in which direction we want to move. But I think I don't have enough information to answer this. But event storming will bring you very far.
Can I add something to that?
Of course, please.
Sure. So yeah, event storming is a great, like the big picture event storming is a great way to get that context. If like somebody, and one thing to remember is very powerful. Somebody's asking for a change, and depending on the size of the change, assuming it's a significant thing, then doing an as is and a to be event storming and say, here's our as is system, full on just by itself. And then without trying to just manipulate exactly what's going to change, just do a to be. And then you'll see the differences, and then try and take some exercise to look at what assumptions of the system were valid in the old and are no longer valid. What new assumptions, what new context, right? And that may be a Wardley mapping, that may be anything, but you're really trying to get the things have changed in the business such that the old system or the customer, whatever, is no longer appropriate, and getting those assumptions that have changed. Because if you can highlight that, you'll realize that, oh, since that assumption has changed, there's this part of the system that is based on that old assumption. And that's your that's the, hey, we did it wrong. Why are we, it's we did it not wrong. We did it based on an assumption that has now proven to be incorrect.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful in the, otherwise we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, keep doing it wrong. So saying these assumptions are no longer valid, and maybe they never were, but that's not the problem. The system exists based on those assumptions. So now we're either going to change that, or we're going to fight with those assumptions because we're working on a different part of the system. And maybe we need to have some translator, right? And say, we're not going to touch those assumptions, but we know they're wrong, right? And really highlighting that is extremely powerful in working with an existing system that has weight.
Yeah, I think one of the sort of problems that I've come across is more often than not, what happens is we want to move away, let's say, from this legacy system to a new system because we want to improve the way we do things. But people often carry their old mental model into the new world. And they essentially want to rebuild this old product in the new one. And I have to actively kind of push against that, say, well, okay, that's the old system, right? That's the old model. Why do you think you need that? So let's say we don't build that, what are you going to lose? So those kind of questions I find can be difficult for some people to understand and answer. Well, why wouldn't I want that? Because I've already been using that.
Yeah, I think it's deeper than that. I think one tip that stands out to me, like whenever somebody says, and I've been in these situations, I've worked through it. It's like whenever we're in the situation where we are replacing a legacy system with our new next gen system, like whole hog,
yeah,
then because of a number of reasons, but essentially what we are doing is building the new legacy. Because we and that's where even if we nail our assumptions right now, by the time that's built, like those assumptions will no longer be valid, right? So if we're not building the capacity to evolve our system and based on new assumptions, then we really are stuck building the next legacy because all the assumptions, we're fixing them and then we're building it out until someone says that doesn't work for me, we have to replace this system. So really, you have to choose as a business, as a team, and as an organization, is make a choice on which way you're going with that. Because sometimes you do the as is and to be. Now the question is, do we rewrite it on the side, or do we slowly take out pieces and pieces and do translators and stranglers or whatever it is? Because what's our strategy as a team to know how to evolve the system based on changing business needs? Or is it a very stable system? And it just has been through a big hiccup, but it's really a new stable state. So we can actually go traditionally and build it. That's really an important way to shift. I don't know.
No, I think it definitely makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to shut up now because it's probably getting late and the people probably also want to ask some questions. So thank you.
I just would add that I would recommend this bounded context canvas. You could prepare it and then discuss it with the others and ask if this is what they want and if they are thinking everything is correct, because the canvas will prove you if something is mixed up or confusing.
Yeah, sounds good.
Then you can discuss on this without any, sure, for the first person who is filling it out will be an effort, but it is worth because you can keep it and it will be your starting point.
Could you send this Miro board link as well, please? Because I don't think I received it, so I'm not sure. That'll be great.
I'll copy it but I think it's also on the website. Let me.
Okay, that's fine. Then I'll pick it up from there. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, wow, that's a nice copy paste. Yeah, then there was one final question, or can we do one more, Krisztina? Yeah, which is there another level of detail to specify each bounded context? And I think the person asks, and that is where entities and aggregates are identified. So I guess that's the level deeper, right? Once you define the boundaries of your bounded context, you can go deeper and really model your solution space. But
yeah, it is implementation detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
If you even have an aggregate or an entity.
I have no idea.
Can also be Google Doc.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It is a pure implementation. What you have communication between services, you have communication between the outer world or other systems or persons, and you have communication methods like command events or queries or whatever, emails, SMS, whatever, and you have interfaces. This is essential. Everything else is your freedom and implementation detail to solve it. So you could have aggregates or not, SQL or no SQL, or event sourcing or not. It doesn't. It won't change anything in the outside. This is your freedom and autonomy and responsibility. Sorry, I don't have.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of tools that can help you there, right?
Yeah.
Are we implementing this, right, ourselves, or will it be a off-the-shelf solution? Will it be
Exactly.
what?
Yeah.
And now architecture, software architecture comes into play, right? How are we gonna implement this?
I was very surprised that nobody suggested to use some Shopify or something, and we would solve the whole sort of problem.
Yeah.
But it would have been a problem for today.
Yeah, so and that's also a common theme, especially when you go in Stack Overflow. People starting with DDD, and they start reading the book, and they see the aggregates and they see the entities, and these are all patterns that you can use, but don't necessarily need to use. Same with I can use an SQL database or a NoSQL database.
Yeah,
it really depends on the most effective way, and the only way to know that is to really model your bounded context correctly.
And, yeah,
right.
Exactly. This is the boundaries are much harder to change as an implementation. It is not so important implementation, and I can postpone the implementation. I could start with a one file do it all class and create a fine boundary and a great interface. And then if I have, this is why I always work with my team. This was this part frame 5 was our technical planning. We were sitting everybody together, front-end experts and back-end experts and whoever, and discussed together the schema. And we even checked it in. And I was on the backend part. My first task was deliver a fake response. And this was our starting point. Okay, now everybody can go and work, because our interface was not live, but was working. And then everybody could worked again the interface. This is the only thing what is interesting, that we can communicate with each other and we can work by the same contract. And the rest is implementation details. You will see in this Miro board in the notes is everything what I told you, or I think everything. And I have somewhere here DDD and aggregates. I don't know where, but anyway, so this it is not a value having aggregates or having repositories. It is not a value for itself. Of course, it is a value if your code is structured and everybody can read it and it's easy to maintain. This is why we are doing it. But the value in itself is not in repositories and aggregates. The value is following the domain, following the wording, following the ubiquitous language, and following the behavior. Because then if our assumptions are sticking to the domain, then they are not assumptions anymore, but behavior. And if the domain changes, which is happening the whole time, then we can easily change, because we don't have to rethink and translate in our software language. And this is important. It is good to have structured code and follow the patterns because they work, but they are not the goal. They are just the means, maybe.
Great. And with that, I think we're exactly 2 hours in. Thanks, Krisztina, for sharing, this 2-hour session and sharing your approach. I hope I already see some comments. It was really helpful.
That's cool.
Well, you'll be here next time as well. And we got some nice sessions lining up for the coming months already. So stay tuned. We already have one planned for the next month, and hope to see you then. And enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, whatever time it is there. And until next time.